Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at some chicken farms. We'll start by looking at an old design that's still pretty popular, but we'll talk about why it's bad and why you shouldn't use it. Then we'll move on to a new design and talk about why that's better and why it's nearly lossless. Next, we'll take that new design and we're going to make it more efficient by using less materials, including having a version of it that does not require any nether quartz. Then after that, we'll take a look at a brand new design. This is my design, and we'll talk about the features that has, including chicken mode and egg mode. So here's an old design you might be familiar with, and you still even see new YouTube videos about this design, but you shouldn't use it. So in this design, your chickens, they stay in this block up here, and when they lay eggs, the eggs are pulled into this hopper, and this comparator will go off, and you have observers that will see that comparator change, and will fire the dispenser with these observers and block across the bottom, and will fire this dispenser with a lava bucket in it, with observer redstone and observer across the top. So we'll go ahead and we'll show how this one works. I'll put an extra hopper here just so it triggers correctly. So we're going to put 5 eggs in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see why the design was made this way. The lava is only out for a very short period of time, and that was in an attempt to prevent your drops from burning up. But you can see that even though we output 5 chickens, we only got 1 chicken. So the rest burned up despite the lava only being out for a short amount of time. There are some variations on this where you might see that this slab here is replaced with different blocks. The most common seems to be a fire, although if you have this out, it really doesn't make a difference. The fire was chosen because it is shorter than a slab. So if that was the theory, then a daylight sensor should perform even better. Five more eggs into the system, and now we're at 3. So that includes the one from before. So of those 5, we only got 2, and those are pretty typical results. I've played with this for a while, and getting anywhere from 0 to 2 is most common. Where I think the most I've ever gotten is 3 out of 5 on this design. So you shouldn't use it. So we'll move on to the design that you should be using. A newer design looks like this, where you notice the main differences are that the lava just exists in the world as a block, and the chicken eggs are dispensed into here, which is a hopper minecart with a slab glitched into it. Hopper minecarts, they are able to pull items much faster than a normal hopper, so they are able to pull any drops into them before they even get the chance to be burned up by the lava. So aside from that, it operates very similarly, where your chickens, they live in here, and they'll lay your eggs, and the eggs will move from this hopper into the dispenser. But while they're in this hopper, they'll trigger this comparator here. This observer will see the comparator change and will update. This observer will see that observer update and will deliver a pulse into this block, which will cause this dispenser to dispense that egg. So we'll do the same test with this one that we did on the previous one. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are spawn eggs, by the way. These are creative spawn eggs. So we're guaranteed an adult chicken out of those. And you can see we got all 5 cooked chickens in there. So this design it's pretty clearly better as far as the efficiency of your drops. It's pretty close to lossless. A lot of videos claim that it's lossless, but it's a hard claim to make. It's a hard thing to prove. So one other note about this design is I like to put a slab up here. You might see a lot of designs where this might be a block or even a trapdoor or something like that. Even with this trapdoor, chickens can still escape, especially once you have 20 of them crammed in there. I find that slabs are the best option because the chickens cannot jump out. Chickens are 0.7 blocks high, so they can't fit through this 0.5 block gap. And you are still able to have access to it, so you can get in here with your seeds while you're breeding your seed chickens here, and it works out a lot better. I should mention that the limit for chickens that you can have up in here is 24, but I wouldn't recommend going much over 20 due to the entity cramming limit. The next design that we'll look at is functionally identical to the previous one, but it is compacted. So here you see this design, it's kind of folded in on itself, so its footprint is much smaller, where your chickens, they go into there. The hopper pulls the eggs, puts it into the dispenser. The dispenser is facing into your hopper minecart, glitched into your slab, and functions identically. All of the glass are replaced with trapdoors, so you get a very slim looking design. The next few designs were based around the idea of reducing the material cost. So in these designs, the most expensive things that you have are your comparators and your observers, mostly just because they require nether quartz. So chicken cookers, they're traditionally things that you want to build pretty early in your world, and one of the biggest things holding you back from being able to build this is often that you need to go into the nether and get nether quartz. So being able to reduce the amount of nether quartz required is always a good thing. So this first design here, you see we're going from using 2 observers back down to 1 observer. Top is functionally the same, where you have your chickens in here, your dispenser, but now you only have 1 observer that's used to dispense the eggs in your dispenser. So instead of having your second observer looking at your first, we just have your first one trigger some redstone, and that redstone is pathed up to this redstone here, and which powers this block instead. So you're essentially trading an observer for 2 blocks of redstone, and as you can see, this one is built 1 block higher, so your overall design ends up being 2 blocks deeper. You notice a lot of these builds, they have I have the grass punched out, and that is just to show that the design is it's self-contained. There's no redstone or components hidden below the grass. So just to stay consistent with how we've been testing these, we'll add our hopper in here. Empty chest. 2, 3, 4, 5. And there are your 5 chickens. We'll move over to the next design here. This design takes it even further, where it was modified to use 0 nether quartz. So you can build this pretty early in your world, with the most expensive thing being the iron required for your 3 hoppers, 1 hopper, 2 hopper, and the 3rd hopper being in your hopper minecart, as well as the iron required to make the minecart itself. So with no nether quartz, you needed a alternate way to create your clock or your pulses that are needed to activate your dispenser. So I did that just using a redstone loop clock, which is just some redstone and some redstone torches that just goes in a circle. Because it is noisy, you can put a lever here to stop the clock if you're in the area. So we'll turn the lever back off, and you can just see how it pulses. Other than that, this design is very similar to the previous design, where your chickens live in there. You have your hopper that collects the eggs and puts the eggs into the dispenser. So we'll do the same test as before. And you'll notice as I'm putting these in, the timing in which the chickens are actually dispensed over here isn't as consistent because you are reliant on this timer. But the timer is frequent enough that it's obviously able to keep up with the rate at which your chickens hatch eggs. So 5 spawn eggs, 5 cooked chickens. Turn this clock off, and the last design we're going to look at over here is functionally identical to the previous one, where it doesn't use any nether quartz. However, the redstone was compacted just a bit to fit in 2 wide. So over here you can see this loop is a 3 wide redstone clock. So over here these blocks were changed just a little bit to allow it to fit into a 2 wide. Before we take a look at my design, we'll go over real quick how to glitch your hopper minecart and slab together on top of this hopper. So what you need to do is you put a rail down, you put your hopper minecart on top of the rail, and you break the rail out. So that will cause the hopper minecart to drop down perfectly on top. The next thing you want to do is place a slab in front of it, and I like to put glass there as well, or whatever other block you're using to block the front. Then you need to get a piston in front of it, like that, and use whatever method you need to activate this piston once. And that'll push your slab into your minecart. And finally, we'll look at my new design for chicken cooker. The main key features being that I'm using twice as many seed chickens up in here, so you'll get eggs twice as fast. And also we have a lever that lets you convert from chicken mode into egg mode. So this design, like the others, it has your chickens laying eggs on a hopper and those hopper feeding into a dispenser. But in addition to that, this hopper has another hopper underneath it, which continues around the side and into a different set of chests. Then that's where the eggs are diverted to. So first we'll talk about the redstone for the normal path. And just like previously, we have a comparator that's looking at the hopper that's pointing into your dispenser, and anytime that there is an egg in there, this comparator will output a signal. I'm outputting it into a block just because the output signal will only be a level 1 and I needed 2 spaces to get it in front of this observer. So I'm outputting into a block with a torch on it. So when this block is powered, this redstone torch will turn off, and this observer will see that redstone torch change and will emit a pulse into your dispenser. And just like the other designs, that dispenser will dispense your eggs into your hopper minecart with a slab. So when you put this into egg mode, see still levered down, what happens is you have a repeater feeding into this block, and the block has redstone torch on it, which locks this bottom hopper to prevent any eggs from going in that alternate path. So all your eggs will be fed into your dispenser. One note with this is that if you have a bunch of eggs that happen to be laid at exactly the same time, it is possible for eggs to leak into here. There's not a super great way to lock this dispenser without also locking that hopper, unless your redstone gets a few blocks bigger over here. So to me that seemed like a pretty reasonable compromise. You just end up with a few of your eggs in this dispenser. So we'll do the same test we did with the others. Our chicken chest is empty, so put this back into chicken mode. And we already have 2 hoppers here because we're using twice as many chickens, so you can have 40 to 45 chickens up in there. So we'll put in our 5 chicken spawn eggs. And there you have your 5 chickens. Next we'll do the same thing within egg mode. So just to show, our chest here just has regular eggs in it. So you would expect with it in egg mode that all of these spawn eggs should end up over there. And there they are. So I did a true 1-hour AFK test on this, and I got 55 chickens and 50 feathers when in chicken mode, and I got 216 eggs when in egg mode. Theoretical drop rates, we did a little bit better than average on the chickens, and we did significantly worse than expected on the eggs. And like we talked about before, those missing eggs, they just ended up leaking into this dispenser. So the theoretical rates are a little interesting. So chickens will lay an egg every 5 to 10 minutes. So for the math, you can expect a 7.5 minute average. So with that 7.5 minute average, you would expect 8 eggs per hour for every chicken that you have in your upper section up here. And interestingly, each egg has a 1/8 chance to hatch into a baby chicken when it's dispensed into your hopper mine cart. So that means on average, you would expect one baby chicken to be hatched per hour for every chicken. So I think I have 40 or 41 chickens up in there right now, and we happen to do 55, so we did better than expected in that regard. That is all I have for you today, so if you like this video, please leave a like. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section down below. And please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thank you and goodbye.